Hello, I'm Austin Wilson.
And I'm Chase Rose.
With Hixon Zuercher Capital Management, and we are here to provide you an economic and market update for the month of, looking back at the month of June in the month of July here. So, let's start right off the bat with the markets, because that's what everyone wants to talk about. It wasn't a great month, we can say that. The S&P 500 was down 8.25% for the month of June. The Dow was down 6.56%. The NASDAQ, it was down 8.65%. Small caps were down 8.22%. International stocks were down 9.65%. And emerging market stocks were down 6.56%. Catching a theme there.
Yeah, not a lot of places to hide.
Even bonds. Bonds were down another 1.55% during the month. So, yeah, it was not a favorable month for the markets to wrap up the end of the second quarter.
Yeah, well, with that being said, considering that we're in a bear market.
We are in a bear market.
What is scarier than a bear?
A tornado.
Yes, a tornado. That's happening right outside currently. No, I would say a dinosaur is probably is a little scarier than a bear.
You're not wrong.
I've never come across a dinosaur personally. But
have you seen the new Jurassic World yet?
I have not. I'm too scared. Dinosaurs are scary.
Ever since the first one, where the T-Rex picks the guy up off the toilet, I haven't been able to sleep. So anyway, I digress. Yeah. Dinosaurs, they're scary.
Yeah, they are very scary, but they are very popular as of recent. A Gorgosaurus skeleton.
Say that again.
A Gorgosaurus skeleton is going up for auction later this month. It stands 10 feet tall and 22 feet long and is the only privately owned skeleton of its kind. Do you know what the projected value of that skeleton is going for right now?
It's got only privately owned means big bucks.
Between $5 and $8 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would say instead of playing the lottery nowadays, you probably should just go find a dinosaur skeleton.
Yeah. So as a wealth advisor, is that a diversification to your assets?
It absolutely diversifies your portfolio.
Buy some skeletons of dinosaurs.
Exactly.
All right, number 2, because I didn't want to leave you on such a sour note from the rough market performance we've been having, I wanted to point out that returns, when we've had periods like now, going forward, the returns going forward are usually pretty favorable. So, here are some statistics. There have been 8 previous times when the S&P 500 was down 15% in a quarter, and we just had that. It was up 6% on average. The next quarter, 15% on average over the next 6 months, and 26% on average over the next year. So that's good news. There have also been 7 times the S&P has been down 20% over the prior 2 quarters, as we've also seen. It's also been up an average of 8.5% the next quarter, 21% over the next 6 months, and 31% over the next year on average. So, forward returns from where we are right now, historically speaking, have been very good, despite the recent volatility and the big sell-off we've had. So hopefully that's some encouragement.
That is very encouraging. Makes me feel a lot better.
You should.
Yeah. Well, the next news line, a new poll conducted by Monmouth University. That was a bit of a tongue
That's a
twister
mouthful.
there. Yeah, it's a mouthful.
Monmouthful.
Asked Americans what their biggest concern is for their family. The number one answer by a mile was inflation. At 33% was the answer rate for inflation.
So a third of Americans.
Their biggest concern is inflation. You want to know what the other top 4 answers were?
Oh, I sure do.
Gas prices was number 2. Another
inflation contributor.
The economy, which it's an inflationary topic as well. And then grocery bills.
Same.
So another inflationary topic.
So it's all about inflation.
All about inflation, all across the board right now.
You know what, Chase? We've golfed together.
We have.
You know what you've done for me?
What's that?
Teed me up.
Yeah?
Because I'm talking about inflation next. So, May inflation. So we haven't yet got June. We're just at the beginning of July, and it's going to be a little bit. So we get that. May inflation came out. It was once again hot. Headline CPI, it was up 8.6% year over year, which was actually higher than expected and higher than the previous one that we were looking at, which was 8.3, which we were hoping was the peak. So it was the highest we'd seen in over about 40 years. Core CPI, so that takes out food and energy, which are more volatile in and of themselves. So taking those out, that continued to moderate. It was declining for a second straight month, and it was about 6%. So this really indicates that the biggest drivers of inflation are food, energy. Food and energy, food and gas prices, food and fuel, all kinds of things like that. So this hot inflation led the Fed to respond by passing through another interest rate hike. So they passed through a 75 basis point or 0.75% interest rate increase, which was more than originally planned, but the market was already kind of anticipating that. So they passed through that in an attempt to slow down the economy, but they also want to slow it down while still allowing it to grow, and that's a really tough balance that I think we're going to be seeing the Federal Reserve navigating over the next year or so. We will get our next inflation report on July 13th, and everyone hopes it will be below the 8.6% we saw last month.
I know I sure do.
Absolutely.
Well, just staying on the topic of inflation, I teed you up, you put me on the green, let's putter in the hole. How about that?
You've seen me putt. That's not going to go well.
Well, it's a good thing I'm putting now. You know what else inflation is very high in right now?
Dinosaur bones.
Yes, they are. But also turkey. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that a Thanksgiving meal is going to be pretty expensive this year, but that is not the turkey we're referring to.
Even though it probably is true.
It probably is true, yeah, you're right. But the inflation rate in the country of Turkey over the last year, from June of last year to June of this year, was 79%. Now,
whoa. Not 7.9%.
Not 7.9, 79%. Now, it is to say it is much more of an underdeveloped market than most of your other European countries and the United States as well. But
wow,
that's still hitting the 84 million residents like a brick wall is really what that's doing.
Yeah, I'll take 8 point. It's hard to complain about 8.6.
Yeah,
79.
I totally agree. And the month-over-month increase was 5% in and of itself. This is primarily accredited to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, high energy and food prices, and a rapidly depreciating national currency. Excuse me.
Yep.
And just some specific numbers out of Turkey. Transportation prices jumped 123% year over year.
That's a lot.
And food and non-alcoholic beverage prices climbed 94%. So they are almost doubled in price from what they were a year ago.
Wow. That is crazy. Another place we are seeing an increase in prices is in the housing market, right? So home affordability has plummeted, with the average home being 21% more expensive than it was 1 year ago, and mortgage rates nearly twice what they were at that point. So if you look at this, it's interesting. Compared to a home purchase made 10 years ago, the average monthly mortgage payment is 147% more expensive than it was 10 years ago. Rents are also up because that is another component of people's inflation, people's budgets that they're feeling right now. Rents up 14% year over year to an all-time high of $1,362 per month on average nationally.
Wow. I wasn't even thinking about what houses were going for 10 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
I was like 10.
You were.
No, I wasn't 10.
You were 12.
I was 12. Yeah. All right. Now, the next inflationary topic.
Catching a theme here.
At the time of this recording, U.S. oil prices fell below $100 per barrel for the first time since May. Retail gas prices, have fallen for 21 straight days, the longest such streak since the COVID lockdown. I would call that a crude awakening, wouldn't you?
It's a crude awakening. I like it.
Yeah. But with gas prices still high compared to what we're used to, what we have been used to over the last few years, it's still nice to see that trend moving in the right direction. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Especially with summer travel coming up.
Exactly.
Fill up your tank for a couple bucks less.
Exactly.
My fifth and final point to make today is midterms. Because if we didn't think this year could get any crazier, it can. So midterm elections are now less than 5 months away. Election betting odds still show Republicans as heavy favorites to take back control of both the House and the Senate. However, polls are showing slight favors to the Democrats retaining at least one of those. So all that really means is it's too early to tell. But one thing that we have in common between 2022 and other midterm years is volatility. Mm-hmm. Now, most midterm years have been more volatile than other years on average, but 2022 has been exceptionally more volatile than even the average midterm year thus far. But generally speaking, midterm year is more volatile, so we're in line with that. But that is something to keep on our radar as we go forward this year.
A very interesting election fact, as a matter of fact. In Indiana, a Boone County man in Indiana won his primary election in May from a jail cell. You might think, how in the world did that happen? Well, he confessed to fatally striking his wife and was awaiting the murder trial for his wife at the time of the primary elections, which he was on the ballot. And the general population knew about this.
And they still voted.
He still won the primary election. Can you believe that?
Now, will it go through?
Now, he did withdraw a few weeks later.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I don't think
you want a murderer.
Exactly. But it really, I have a hard time believing that Americans would vote a murderer into.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I ran across that fact and
what a fun fact. Yeah. Not a fun fact.
Yeah,
but an interesting fact.
A very interesting fact, yeah, as a matter of fact.
Well, thank you for being with us. Once again, this is Austin Wilson, Chase Rose here with Hixon Zuercher Capital Management. Please remember that nothing we talked about is a recommendation, but if there's anything that you would like to talk about, your financial situation, give us a call at 419-425-2400, and we would be happy to help. Otherwise, have a great July and a great rest of your summer.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Josh Robb and Austin Wilson work for Hixon Zuercher Capital Management. All opinions expressed by Josh, Austin, or any guest are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Hixon Zuercher Capital Management. This is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Clients of Hixon Zuercher Capital Management may maintain positions in the securities discussed. There is no guarantee that the statements, opinions, or forecasts provided herein will prove to be correct. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Indices are not available for direct investment. Any investor who attempts to mimic the performance of an index would incur fees and expenses which would reduce returns. Securities investing involves risk, including the potential for loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment plan or strategy will be successful.